Have you ever paused to consider why the central, often radical teachings of Jesus, those he reserved for his closest initiates, seemingly vanished, never quite making it into the official Bible we rely on today? Why were certain ancient texts intentionally hidden away, often burned on the stake of orthodoxy, and utterly forbidden from the sight of devout believers for almost 2 millennia? There exists an esoteric secret, a transformative gnosis so potent, that the powerful early church fathers deliberately concluded that humanity was simply not spiritually or politically mature enough to handle its implications. This was the profound teaching of the left hand, a mastery of internal spiritual mechanics that Jesus shared only with his most intimate disciples. This practice held the key to unlocking extraordinary dimensions of consciousness and spiritual power, a power that posed an existential threat to the very foundations of institutional and hierarchical control. If deep within your heart you sense there must be something more to the ancient wisdom than the simplified stories we have been handed down, I invite you to type, "I'm ready for truth," in the comments. And if the sheer weight of this mystery is already setting your heart racing with anticipation, take a moment to hit that like button, because the revelation you are about to encounter will fundamentally challenge and reshape everything you thought you knew about sacred wisdom. Imagine, for a moment, holding in your left hand a literal key to direct divine consciousness, a portal to powerful manifestation, a precise spiritual technique so intrinsically powerful that both emperors and the established priests conspired across centuries to utterly erase it from the historical record. This is not idle speculation or an unproven theory born of modern curiosity. Ancient manuscripts, those unearthed in sealed caves, pulled from the desert floor, and preserved in sealed jars, tell a dramatically different narrative than the single, unified history officially sanctioned and policed by Rome. In the Forbidden Gospel of Thomas, within the stunning collection of the Nag Hammadi texts rescued from the Egyptian sands, and preserved in the meticulously whispered traditions of the Essenes and the early Gnostics, we find the enduring fragments of this left-hand teaching. This was a precise spiritual practice that Jesus himself mastered and demonstrated, but one which was systematically and surgically removed from the newly compiled canonical scriptures. The question is, why? The answer is startlingly simple and deeply political. Because this knowledge instantly placed spiritual authority, sovereignty, and direct divine connection entirely in the hands of the individual seeker. It completely bypassed any reliance on intermediaries, eliminated the necessity of institutions, and rendered anyone standing between you and the boundless divine source utterly obsolete. Today, right now, we are going to unveil the wisdom they were so desperate to keep hidden from you. We will meticulously explore the profound mystical significance of the left hand in Jesus' actual, inner teachings. We will decode the symbolic language that cunningly hid this wisdom in plain sight within the authorized texts. And, most importantly, I will provide you with the practical, actionable technique that can begin to radically transform your spiritual practice starting tonight. This is not merely an academic exercise in history. This is your long-lost spiritual birthright. Let us pull back the curtain on what has been concealed for 2,000 years. To truly comprehend the monumental effort the institutional church undertook to bury this specific teaching, we must journey back to a time when Christianity was not a single, unified voice, but rather a vibrant, sometimes cacophonous symphony of diverse spiritual paths, each earnestly claiming to preserve the most authentic and unadulterated words of the Christ. That landscape changed dramatically in December of 1945. An Egyptian farmer named Muhammad Ali Al-San was digging through the arid earth for fertilizer near the town of Nag Hammadi when his shovel struck something exceptionally hard. Inside a large, sealed earthenware jar, he discovered 13 leather-bound codices, ancient books that had been carefully hidden and interred in the desert for over 1,600 years. What these texts contained, when finally translated, sent shockwaves through the very foundations of religious scholarship worldwide. Here were gospels, teachings, and sayings attributed directly to Jesus that painted a radically expanded and deeply mystical picture, one profoundly different from the sanitized, authorized version presented and enforced by the nascent Roman Church. Among these forbidden texts, we find repeated, coded references to a sacred distinction between the right and left hands, symbolizing the essential duality between the visible and the invisible realms, and between exoteric religion, public ritual, and esoteric practice, private mastery. The Gospel of Thomas, which many scholars believe contains some of the earliest recorded sayings of Jesus, speaks in deeply mysterious parables about the imperative to make the two one, to make the inner as the outer, and the outer as the inner, the above as the below, and to merge the male and female into a perfect, spiritual single unit, syzygy. But if these texts held such original wisdom, why were they suppressed? Why were they systematically deemed dangerous and heretical? The complete answer is rooted in the fierce power struggle that consumed and eventually defined early Christianity. By the 4th century CE, Emperor Constantine had shrewdly transformed a persecuted, decentralized spiritual movement into the official state religion of the Roman Empire. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE became the great standardization event, a brutal theological vice where diverse, contradictory teachings were forcibly compressed into a single, mandatory orthodox narrative. Bishops gathered not in search of mystical truth, but to enforce political and theological uniformity. Any teaching that suggested human beings could bypass the ecclesiastical hierarchy and directly access divine consciousness without priestly mediation was immediately branded as spiritually seditious and dangerous. The left-hand teaching was especially threatening because of its radical simplicity. In the ancient world, the right hand universally symbolized the outer self, the public, the acceptable, the visible performance. It represented orthodox religion, visible public prayer, overt charity, the persona you meticulously displayed to society and the state. But the left hand represented the hidden, the private, the internal, and the secret, intimate relationship forged between the individual soul and the infinite. It was understood as the hand of personal gnosis, of direct, unmediated spiritual experience, and of profound inner transformation. Jesus himself was a master of this dual approach to teaching. To the sprawling masses, he spoke eloquently in accessible parables, but to his inner circle of disciples, he systematically revealed the deep mysteries. In the Gospel of Mark, we find this clear distinction. To you has been given the secret of the kingdom of God, but for those outside, everything comes in parables. This was not elitism, but a sophisticated spiritual pedagogy, recognizing that individual human consciousness awakens and evolves in distinct stages. The Essenes, the mystical Jewish sect with whom many scholars believe Jesus held deep connections, practiced elaborate, disciplined techniques of meditation, visualization, and focused energy work. They fundamentally understood the human body as a living temple, with each hand representing distinct, flowing spiritual currents. Ancient Kabbalistic teachings specifically speak of the left pillar of the tree of life as the pillar of severity and receptivity, the yin feminine principle that actively draws down divine energy into physical manifestation. Even within the canonical Gospels, telling traces of this teaching remain, cleverly hidden in plain sight. When Jesus instructs his followers in Matthew 6 verse 3, saying, "When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing," he is doing far more than simply promoting humble charity. He is subtly encoding a profound mystical instruction about the required separation between outer, performative religious behavior, the right hand, and the deep, silent, transformative inner spiritual work, the left hand. The Syrian mystics, the rigorous Egyptian desert fathers, and the secretive Gnostic circles of Alexandria all painstakingly preserved fragments of this knowledge within their clandestine practices. They grasped what the institutional church desperately sought to suppress, that salvation was not a distant, future promise dependent upon adhering to the correct belief system, credo *, but rather a present, living reality accessible immediately through disciplined, correct spiritual practice. And the left hand, they knew, was the master key. Now we arrive at the pulsating heart of the mystery. What exactly did Jesus teach concerning the mystical power of the left hand? And why does it hold such transformative, revolutionary power for the individual? In the esoteric traditions that successfully preserved the hidden teachings, the human body is understood not merely as physical matter, but as a living energy matrix, a temple with two distinct, flowing energy currents. The right side of the body carries what the ancients termed the solar current, active, projecting, masculine, yang, in quality, strongly associated with the conscious, rational mind and outward, assertive action. Conversely, the left side carries the lunar current, receptive, drawing inward, feminine, yin, in quality, profoundly associated with the subconscious mind, intuition, and inner knowing. When Jesus instructed his disciples in the secret practices, he taught them how to consciously awaken and activate the left hand as a supremely fine-tuned receiving antenna for higher divine consciousness. Think of the distinction this way. Imagine your right hand as a powerful broadcast tower, constantly sending signals, your actions, your work, your visible deeds, out into the world. Now, vividly imagine your left hand as a high-precision satellite dish, specifically positioned to receive delicate transmissions from higher dimensions of reality. Spontaneous inspiration, profound intuition, powerful healing energy, and direct divine guidance. The Gospel of Philip, another significant Nag Hammadi text, speaks cryptically of the chamber and the bridal chamber, mystical states of consciousness where the individual soul merges completely with the divine source. The text goes on to describe advanced practices of visualization and focused energy work that involve specific hand positions, or mudras. The left hand, when placed deliberately over the heart or held in specific sacred gestures, becomes a direct conduit for what the Gnostics called the pleroma, the overflowing fullness of divine light and being. But here is where this teaching becomes even more profound and where its threat to the institutional structure became utterly undeniable. Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven was not a distant geographical realm you might enter after death based on correct belief. It was, instead, an immediate state of consciousness you could access right now, in this very moment, through correct, focused practice. And the left-hand technique was one of the definitive master keys to unlock that imminent kingdom. In Aramaic, the actual language Jesus spoke, the word for left hand is semela, which shares a powerful linguistic root with words meaning hidden and treasure. This was not a mere coincidence. It was deliberate linguistic encoding. The left hand represented the hidden treasure within you, the pearl of great price, buried not in a distant temple, but in the field of your own consciousness. The technique itself involved a sophisticated form of what modern practitioners might recognize as receptive meditation or internal energy work. While the right hand was fully engaged in necessary worldly activity, writing, working, giving, striving, the left hand remained consistently attuned to the invisible, receptive realm. Practitioners would intentionally place their left hand over specific energy centers, chakras, of the body while entering deep states of prayer or contemplation, thereby essentially creating a closed, activated circuit between human and divine consciousness. Ancient texts describe Jesus performing powerful healings with simple touch, often utilizing his left hand. Recall the woman who touched the hem of his garment and immediately felt dynamis, power, flow from him. These accounts were not simply abstract metaphors. They were detailed descriptions of actual energetic transmissions that those trained in the left-hand technique could both consciously give and receptively receive. The Therapeuti, a secluded Jewish mystical community in Egypt contemporary with Jesus, practiced elaborate healing techniques using the left hand as a refined channel for divine energy. They intuitively understood what modern science is only now hesitantly beginning to validate, that focused human consciousness can profoundly influence energy fields, and that intention directed through specific parts of the body can create measurable, transformative effects. Consider this powerful and illuminating analogy. Your right hand is like the visible part of an iceberg, the 10% above the waterline that everyone can see, your actions, your works, your religious observances. But your left hand is intrinsically connected to the vast 90% below the surface, the immense, subconscious depths where true spiritual transformation and quantum possibilities reside, and where you interface directly with the source of all creation. When Jesus emphatically declared that the kingdom of God is within you, he was issuing a truly radical teaching. Not within the temple walls, not dependent on the priest's blessing, not contained only in the holy book, but within you. And the left-hand practice was the designated method for effortlessly accessing that inner kingdom. It was the specific technique for activating what the Hindus call the Ida Nadi, the lunar channel, what the Chinese call the Yin meridian, and what the Kabbalists refer to as the left pillar of the tree of life, the prime receptive channel of consciousness. The deeper we venture into the details of this forbidden teaching, the more completely we understand why it represented such a seismic threat to institutional power. The left-hand secret wasn't just about subtle energy or meditative focus. It was about the fundamental nature of reality itself and your inherent, God-given role in shaping it. In the suppressed Gnostic texts, particularly the esoteric secret book of John, we find detailed teachings about the anthropos, the divine human, who possesses within themselves the complete, pristine blueprint of creation. Jesus, according to these revolutionary texts, came not primarily to die for sins, but to awaken humanity to their own latent divine nature. The left-hand technique was revealed as one of the primary, most powerful tools for this immediate, direct spiritual awakening. Here is exactly what makes this teaching fundamentally revolutionary. The burgeoning early church taught that humans were fundamentally sinful, fallen, and eternally separate from God, requiring an external savior and institutional mediation to precariously bridge that gap. But the left-hand teaching suggested something diametrically different. That divinity already dwells fully within you, dormant like a seed, waiting only for the proper conditions, the proper practice to sprout and flourish. The left hand, in this profound context, becomes what mystics term the receptive womb of consciousness. Just as a physical womb receives a seed and nurtures it into life, your left side, your receptive consciousness, receives divine inspiration, spiritual insights, and creative visions, and then gestates them into material reality. This powerful mechanism is why so many ancient creation myths worldwide speak of the feminine principle as the creative matrix through which the formless eternally becomes form. Jesus taught his disciples a technique that modern practitioners might recognize as a sophisticated form of creative visualization fused with deep somatic awareness. You would enter a deeply meditative state, place your left hand deliberately over your heart center, and consciously create an internal, receptive inner space. In that sacred space, you would not petition God for favors like a beggar kneeling before a king. Instead, you would perfectly align your consciousness with the divine will, feeling and sensing what profound truth or creation was already waiting to emerge through you. The Syriac texts preserved within Eastern Christian mysticism contain ancient prayers that specifically refer to the hand of silence and the hand of action. The hand of silence, the left, was mandated to remain in constant inner prayer, in perpetual receptivity to the Holy Spirit, while the hand of action, the right, carried out earthly duties. This dual practice created what the mystics termed the inner chamber, a secret sanctuary of consciousness that remained completely untouched by worldly chaos and striving. But here is the aspect that truly and irrevocably terrified the institutional church. This teaching implied that miracles, profound healings, and the power of manifestation were not the exclusive domain of Jesus or the ordained clergy. They were, in fact, latent capacities inherent in every human being, waiting only to be activated through proper, disciplined practice. The left-hand technique was essentially a universal method for awakening your own divine creative power. Consider the overwhelming implications. If every person could instantaneously access divine guidance directly, what legitimate need would there be for a restrictive priestly class? If every individual could heal through simple touch, manifest desired reality through visualization, and know the truth through direct mystical experience, *gnosis*, what need would remain for institutional control, doctrine, or tithing? The left-hand teaching was a radical form of spiritual democracy, and the Roman Church was rapidly constructing a spiritual monarchy. The symbolism goes even deeper into esoteric traditions. In ancient Jewish mysticism, the left hand represents Gevura, divine strength and necessary judgment, but also profound receptivity to the Shekinah, the feminine, indwelling presence of God. When Jesus spoke of receiving the kingdom like a child, he was describing this quality of open, trusting, utterly receptive consciousness that the left hand embodied. Children naturally lead with pure wonder, with open-handed receiving, before the world teaches them to grasp, control, and dominate with the right hand's assertive energy. There is a fascinating passage in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, another suppressed text, where Mary describes a vision of the soul ascending through various planetary spheres. Each sphere presents a severe challenge, a limitation to be overcome. The soul ultimately succeeds not through fighting or striving, the energy of the right hand, but through profound surrender and humble receptivity, the energy of the left. This is the ultimate secret of spiritual alchemy. Transformation occurs not when you aggressively fight against your limitations, but when you consciously create the receptive space for divine grace to enter and transmute them effortlessly. The Dead Sea Scrolls further reveal that the Essenes practiced ritualistic baths with a specific, conscious awareness directed toward cleansing and purifying the left side of the body as preparation for prophetic visions and deep divine communion. They understood that the left channel, when purified and activated, becomes a clear, resonant vessel for transcendent experience. Even the canonical crucifixion narrative, when examined through esoteric lenses, reveals clear left-hand symbolism. Jesus was pierced on his right side, the side of worldly attachment, visible action, and mortal striving. But his resurrection represented the triumph of the left-hand consciousness, the receptive principle that can receive even death itself and, through surrender, transform it into eternal life. This was never just about a physical resurrection of flesh. It was an encoded teaching about consciousness transcending material limitations through receptive surrender to the powerful divine current. Now comes the vital moment you have been waiting for. How do you practically integrate and activate this ancient left-hand technique in your own life? How do you awaken this powerful, dormant faculty that Jesus taught only to his inner circle? The true elegance of this practice lies in its profound simplicity. You require no special equipment, no ornate ritual, and critically, no priest or intermediary. You need nothing except your own body, your breath, and your unwavering intention. This is precisely why it was historically deemed so dangerous. It places spiritual authority directly and literally in your hands. Begin with what the ancients called the sacred pause. Find a quiet, undisturbed space where you can commit to at least 15 minutes of uninterrupted stillness. Sit comfortably with your spine erect, simultaneously embodying dignity and effortless receptivity. Close your eyes and take 3 deep, intentional breaths, making the exhale noticeably longer than the inhale. With each long exhale, vividly imagine releasing the accumulated tensions and stresses of your right-hand world. Your worries, your endless tasks, your social masks, your relentless need to perform and produce. Now, bring your entire awareness intensely to your left hand. Truly feel it from within. Notice the subtle, inner energy, the gentle tingling aliveness that has always resided there, but has rarely been acknowledged by your conscious mind. The mystics taught that where attention flows, energy goes. By simply becoming consciously aware of your left hand, you begin the process of activating its receptive capacity. Gently place your left palm directly over your heart center, that sacred space in the middle of your chest. Do not press firmly. Let it rest there with the profound tenderness you would use to hold something exceptionally precious and fragile. Your right hand should rest comfortably on your lap, palm facing upward in a universal gesture of release. This intentional positioning creates what the Essenes termed the circuit of grace. Your left hand receives the divine energy through the heart, while your right hand releases all control and fixed expectation. As you sit in this position, begin a simple, powerful contemplative practice. Instead of actively asking for specific things, instead of petitioning or pleading, simply become receptive. Imagine your heart center as a radiant chalice, and your left hand as the devoted vessel that holds it steady beneath a ceaseless waterfall of pure divine light. You are not striving to make anything happen. You are consciously allowing something extraordinary to happen through you. Breathe naturally and easily. With each inhale, sense a golden, radiant light entering through the crown of your head, flowing down through your heart, and being absorbed fully by your left palm. With each exhale, sense any heaviness, any darkness, or any limitation draining effortlessly down through your right hand into the supportive earth below, where it is instantly transformed into fertile soil. You are, in this moment, becoming a living, conscious bridge between heaven and earth. After 5 to 10 minutes of this pure, receptive meditation comes the second phase, the creative phase. Still maintaining your left hand over your heart, allow an image, a clear knowing, or a feeling to arise naturally in your consciousness. What does your soul truly desire to express? Not what you think you should want, not what society expects of you, but what your deepest, most authentic self profoundly yearns for. Let this vision appear naturally, like a fully formed dream emerging from the depths. Here is the crucial, separating instruction that distinguishes this ancient practice from mere surface visualization. Do not see this vision as something distant, something you are striving toward. Instead, you must receive it as already fully present, already real in the invisible dimension. Your left hand is consciously drawing it from the infinite realm of possibility into the physical realm of manifestation. Feel the tangible emotion of its reality. Sense the texture of it, the solid weight of it, the undeniable truth of it already existing in this sacred now. The ancient texts called this standing in the fulfilled prayer. You are not begging a distant God for favors. You are aligning your inner consciousness with what already exists in the divine mind and using your left hand as the perfect receiving channel to birth it into your current reality. Jesus said, "Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." This left-hand technique is the precise methodology behind that powerful teaching. Practice this daily, ideally at the same time, creating a consistent ritual that your subconscious consciousness learns to recognize. Morning is exceptionally powerful for receiving fresh divine guidance for the day ahead. Evening is powerful for integrating the day's experiences and releasing what no longer serves your path. Some devoted practitioners choose to do both. But here is where the practice gracefully extends beyond formal meditation into your daily life. Begin to actively cultivate what the mystics called left-hand awareness throughout your waking day. When you are facing a sudden challenge or difficulty, consciously place your left hand over your heart for just a moment, even if you are in a public space. This becomes a secret, instantaneous gesture of remembrance, a physical anchor that instantly reconnects you to that vast receptive consciousness. When someone speaks to you, practice listening with your left hand. This means receiving their words, not just intellectually, but energetically and empathetically, sensing the underlying truth and intention beneath their surface language. When you walk in nature, let your left hand occasionally brush gently against trees, stones, or running water, consciously receiving their ancient, nonverbal wisdom through touch. If you work in any healing profession, experiment with directing your conscious awareness through your left hand when touching others. You will be amazed at how much more you subtly sense, and how much more energy effortlessly flows through you when you shift from actively doing energy work to simply receiving energy, even while actively serving. For manifestation work, try writing your deepest, most sacred intentions with your left hand. Even if the resulting handwriting is clumsy and awkward, this deliberate act bypasses the analytical, controlling dominance of the right hemisphere and allows pure soul truth to emerge unfiltered. The practice will feel strange at first, but it establishes a direct, unmediated channel from your subconscious wisdom to the page. One final, advanced practice. Before you fall asleep, place your left hand gently over your heart and set the explicit intention to receive profound wisdom and guidance through your dreams. The left-hand consciousness is the primary gateway to the unconscious realm where divine communication most often arrives in symbols, metaphors, and clear visions. Keep a journal beside your bed, and upon waking, immediately write down whatever you remember, using your left hand if possible. We have journeyed together through 2,000 years of hidden history, through the dark corridors of forbidden knowledge that the institutional church sought to seal forever. But truth, like water under pressure, always finds an inevitable way to flow. The left-hand's secret was not destroyed. It was merely sleeping, waiting patiently for a generation spiritually mature and ready enough to reclaim its inherent power. What you have learned today is not just a piece of historical curiosity. It is a living, actionable technology for spiritual mastery that belongs entirely to you. The essence of transmission, a silent current flowing through time. This is a technology of the soul that has radically reshaped human consciousness for countless millennia, often practiced in secret lineages. Now, in this pivotal time, it is being consciously restored, not just offered, but restored, to those courageous souls who possess the internal fortitude to transcend the narrow, often fearful boundaries of conventional, man-made religion and step instead onto the sacred ground of unmediated, direct mystical experience. Let us be perfectly clear. Jesus of Nazareth did not journey into this world merely to erect another bureaucratic religion, weighed down by endless external rules, dogmatic demands, and empty rituals. His singular purpose was far more revolutionary: to fully awaken the divine human, to ignite the inherent Christ consciousness, that radiant blueprint of unconditional love and unified awareness, which lies dormant, yet perfect, within every single soul. This revolutionary left-hand teaching is more than just a method. It unveils a foundational, disruptive truth that inherently destabilizes and threatens every earthly structure, every pyramid of power, built upon the toxic illusion of separation and the need for external control. Hear this fundamental, undeniable truth whispered by the ages. You are not separate from the divine source. You never have been. That perceived distance was merely a manufactured delusion. The legendary kingdom of heaven is not some ethereal reward grudgingly granted after the cessation of life by some distant, judgmental cosmic figure. It is profoundly a specific frequency of elevated consciousness, an accessible dimension of reality that you possess the innate capacity to tune into right now, in this very sacred moment. This attunement is achieved through the profound, feminine principle of receptive awareness that your left hand beautifully embodies and channels. In every intentional instance that you place your left palm directly over the vital sanctuary of your heart and consciously enter that profound, sacred stillness, you are instantly participating in an unbroken, potent lineage. This chain stretches back thousands of years, connecting you to generations of mystics, prophets, seers, and awakened masters who guarded and lived by this fundamental secret. You are not just meditating. You are issuing a declaration of absolute spiritual independence, severing ties with any external system or intermediary that audacious claims to stand between your personal being and the boundless infinite. You are activating the very core capacity that defines your nature, the seamless integration that makes you simultaneously perfectly human and intrinsically divine. The structures of organized religion, what is often broadly called the church, actively suppressed, distorted, and ultimately banned this vital teaching for a singularly pragmatic reason. Empowered, self-aware individuals have absolutely no need for institutional control or religious bureaucracy. When you possess the innate capability to receive crystalline divine guidance directly into your being, when you can facilitate profound healing simply through the energy of your own touch, when you can precisely manifest reality through aligned, focused consciousness, and when you can verify absolute truth through immediate personal mystical experience, at that moment, you become truly ungovernable by any external authority or temporal power structure. You transcend obedience and claim your full spiritual sovereignty. Understand this, that radical sovereignty is not a prize to be won. It is the inalienable, sacred birthright of your soul. As you transition forward from the completion of this teaching, pledge to consciously weave this sacred practice into the everyday tapestry of your life. Permit your left hand to become your devoted, constant companion within the invisible, energetic realm, the world of causation and spirit. Even as your right hand actively engages, builds, and navigates the dense challenges of the visible material world, ensure that you daily, meticulously, create that essential, living circuit of grace. Anchor yourself deeply in the receptive awareness, the exact posture of inner listening that Jesus himself consistently embodied. Then, simply observe with awe as the very architecture of your life begins to radically transform in profound, synchronous ways that the limited, linear rational mind will utterly fail to explain, yet which your eternally awakened heart has always intuitively known were not only possible, but inevitable. The secret teaching is no longer veiled in obscurity. The precise, activating technique rests in your hands, quite literally. The critical question facing you now is one of will and intent. Will you deliberately choose to use this knowledge? Will you boldly step forth into the untainted fullness of what Jesus truly taught, the genuine, raw wisdom that exists far beyond the diluted, sanitized version meticulously approved by councils of fearful men throughout history who fundamentally dreaded the magnitude of your inherent spiritual power? Take this moment right now. Interrupt your routine. Place your left hand squarely over your heart center. Feel the immediate, undeniable presence of that connection. Sense the palpable current of divine energy surging within. Know unequivocally that by this act you are taking your place in an unbroken chain of devoted seekers, one that stretches back across time to the very disciples who sat at Jesus' feet and absorbed these profound mysteries firsthand, not through second-hand doctrine. You must understand that you are not, in fact, learning some newly discovered concept. You are engaged in a process of profound spiritual remembrance, the deep act of anamnesis, recalling something that has always resided within your cellular memory. If this teaching has vibrated strongly enough to awaken a recognition deep within your core, if you feel the unmistakable resonance of this truth echoing in your very bones, then share this message judiciously. Share it only with those souls you know are truly ready to receive its transformative power. Be discerning. Not everyone possesses the inner context to grasp such depth. Jesus himself offered the cautionary wisdom to give precious pearls only to those who possess the capacity to value them. But for those rare few with the ears to hear, and the receptive hearts fully prepared to receive this current, this simple, ancient teaching holds the power to fundamentally change absolutely everything they perceive about reality and spirit. Do not postpone this initiation. Begin tonight. Refuse to wait for some mythical perfect moment or ideal setting. In the quiet sacred space just before you surrender to sleep, commit to practicing exactly what you have learned. Place that left hand over your heart center. Consciously enter that profound, receptive stillness, and simply allow the powerful, cleansing divine current to flow freely through your being. The kingdom of divine consciousness is, unequivocally, within you. The left hand, representing receptive awareness, is the simple yet potent key required to unlock its infinite expanse. The veil has lifted. The ancient mystery has been revealed to your sight. The forbidden teaching, once suppressed under threat, is now definitively yours to possess. What you choose to do with this radical knowledge will determine not merely the course of your immediate spiritual path, but the profound, eternal trajectory of your soul's continued evolution. Choose wisely when faced with distraction. Choose courageously, despite the world's skepticism. Choose the challenging, sovereign path of direct knowing and immediate mystical experience, the very path Jesus deliberately walked and relentlessly taught. This is the only path that absolutely no external institution, council, or authority can ever control or mediate, because it belongs eternally and inviolably to the sovereign spirit residing deep within you. May your receptive left hand forever hold the sacred memory of what your active right hand has, through necessity, temporarily forgotten. That you are, and have always been, inextricably one with the infinite, breathing divine consciousness that sustains and inspires all existence. The final words are spoken. The secret is revealed. The transformative practice is now irrevocably yours. The deep, irreversible transformation begins now.